Hello, teachers. Welcome. My name is Seth, and today we are going to be talking about teaching over video conferencing and setting up your workspace to make sure that your video looks good and you are kind of putting your best foot forward in terms of providing a quality educational experience. And today we have with us teacher Jackie. Hello, teacher Jackie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my home workspace. I'm here and going to help model some of the strategies that we have to share with you and show you how you can have the best light at your home workspace too.
Very cool. So what's cool about our opportunity right now is that Jackie is actually setting up her own home workspace. She recently relocated. So the things that we are talking about today are things that are very relevant to her setup and to any of you who are teaching from home. So let's get started. Today we are talking about framing, lighting, and background. Looking great on screen for Classroom Live, which is our main teaching product over video teleconferencing. And I want to say that for those of you who would like a micro-credential for participating in today's professional development, you should be making a copy of this slideshow, which will be available in the notes or in the video notes. There should be a link to the slideshow. You can make a copy and you can put all of your answers into the slideshow, as you will see as we get going, and Jackie will be modeling for you. So the agenda today, we will be talking about framing, lighting, and background as the three big elements to make sure that you are providing a well-lit, colorful, engaging, professional video experience for your learners. And we also have this little logo that'll be appearing on some of these slides. And the idea here is that if you're watching this as a video, you can pause when you see this little icon and you can do the things that we are talking about doing. It will be much smaller. And there you see it. It's right there. Think about it. What are some of the physical characteristics of a traditional classroom? So at this point, again, you would pause, you would think about it. And then what you would do is write your answers here. Write about it. So we're going to do this with Jackie right now. Jackie, do you think that you could write down in this slide some of your ideas about what makes or what the physical characteristics are of a traditional classroom?
Yes, should I make a copy and make my own first?
That's a great idea, teacher Jackie.
All right, hopping on in here. You can see I have the same slideshow open. I'm just going to go File, Make a Copy. And it automatically gives it its name. I'm going to just add my initials so I know it's mine. And it will go right to my own drive. Magical, the copy has been made.
And can you share that with me, Jackie, too, so that I can show it to people as we go along?
Totally. To share with Seth, I'm just clicking on Share in the upper right corner and adding his name. I really am. All right, and send. And now Seth has everything that I have access to as well.
Great, thank you.
So my ideas about what are the characteristics in a traditional classroom. Just going to list mine. I'm going to say there's a lot of bright light usually because there's lots of windows in traditional classrooms and schools. You know, there's lots of desks, books, and physical materials. And all good teachers have some sort of motivational poster out there, learning materials on the wall. And usually there are some sort of interactive stations for the students. I think that about covers it.
Very cool. I'm going to. And so, question, Jackie, which of these classrooms would you prefer to teach in, and why?
As a person that loves color, I would absolutely be drawn to Classroom A. The colors alone make it so much more interesting to look at. It still looks like it's really bright and fun, but it looks way more fun than the other one with all those colors, and it looks like there's interactive things on the wall. In the other classroom, there's nothing. It looks a lot more skill and drill kind of oriented, so I would choose Classroom A for sure.
Cool. And as we know, skill and drill is dying. That is a way to prepare students for the world of 30 years ago, whereas nowadays we are focusing on much more 21st century skills. Communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking. These are the types of things that are fostered in this colorful environment. So we've got a typical classroom here. You know, this is kind of a hybrid between the last two that we saw. There's some color. Desks are grouped into groups. It is a little drab, but it's well lit. You know, you could probably add a couple more butterflies up on the wall. And the thing is that any home or office can become a classroom. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to make your home or office a digital classroom. So think about it. From where do you work most often? Imagine that workstation is now a classroom, and what would you change? So Jackie, I know you just got there, but think about the place where you often work. Is it the room that you're in right now?
So far, this is my best setup, and it's not ideal because it is a bedroom. So it's very difficult to kind of convert into an office. And ideally, I would have more of just a flat wall background, but the setup, there's many windows in this room, so it's difficult to find that space. So here it is, my home office, Country Homes and Gardens.
Very cool. And those are some of the things that Jackie would write down on her Write About It right here. And we're going to be talking about today 3 things that you can do to make your home office or a better digital classroom. And there are 3 things. It's framing, lighting, and background. Those are the 3 things that we're talking about. So we'll see if we can improve Jackie's situation here a little bit. So the first one here is framing. Okay, this is the way that you position the camera so that it captures your video. I should say too, this is my home office. It is like halfway set up, so there are definitely some improvements that I can make to this space as well. We just talked about colorful, and you'll notice it's not super colorful back there, but I do have a bulletin board on which I will be putting up a lot of my colorful student work. In terms of framing, there are 3 things that we're talking about: distance, rule of thirds, and eye level. So we're looking for a just right distance, right? Something like this, too far away. Something like this, just right. Something like this, a little too close. So this is a Goldilocks situation where you're looking for something just right. So this is where we would take a screenshot. Jackie, maybe you want to drop a screenshot of yourself at a just right position into your slideshow, and then you can share that with people to show exactly what we're trying to get at here.
Sure thing. All right, so here we go.
Smile for your screenshot.
Okay, I think that my framing in Zoom is actually pretty just right, so I'm going to take a screenshot of myself there. Here we go. All right, so I just did a screenshot of my Zoom window, and I'm going to go to my files here and show you exactly how I got my picture in there. So really, you can just drag and drop from anywhere. I'm going to go to Finder, and here I happen to have some just right selfies. Oh, there I am. I just selected the picture and dragged it on in here.
Very
there I am.
Cool. Thank you so much, Teacher Jackie. That looks great. So you want to have a just right position. And let's go on to the next element. There's the rule of thirds, okay? So this is this idea that both vertically and horizontally, you want to split the view into thirds, okay? So with this picture here, you see that the woman has one of her shoulders in the left third, one of the shoulders in the right third, and then the majority of her body in the middle third in terms of the distance this way. And then looking at the distance this way, she's got sort of her, her main face area in the middle third, her body and below in the lower third, and her kind of eyes and forehead up above. So that's what we're looking for in terms of breaking it up into thirds. This is something that is applied to any shot that you would take, but in terms of a person, this is how you'd want to break it up. Jackie, do you feel like the picture that you took before follows that rule of thirds?
Yeah, I've framed myself pretty well overall in that. But I wanted to add that with a webcam or with a built-in camera in your laptop, this is so much easier to accomplish because that's kind of how it's designed to hit right at the top of your head if your computer is sitting on a table. But what gets a little more complicated is when you have external webcams. That is true of our Cisco equipment and any other setup that has any external camera. Sometimes, I use my phone as an example here, your camera might end up a little bit above you actually. And sometimes people position the camera in a way where they're really centered. And that would be the equivalent of me being like this. If I was centered, this is it. But that looks pretty weird. And really, you don't want to look diminutive when teaching a class. You want to look like you are in control, and you are. So get yourself in there full force and get your head closer to the top, and then you will look like more of a presence in the classroom.
Very cool. Thank you. So looking back at our slideshow, this is where Jackie would drop in a picture of herself and make sure to move the picture to the back so that you could still have the grid on top of it, and make sure that her shot is following the rule of thirds. Do you want to do that, teacher Jackie? Jackie, why don't you show us how you can drop your screenshot in here and also have it, the grid on top of it to analyze whether or not you're reaching the rule of thirds.
Sure thing. Let's check it out on my presentation here. Same thing, I just dropped in the same picture actually, and the grid in the background is all one object. So if we go to order, we can bring it to the front and voila, there we are. And we can see I'm going to get my picture a little more into this grid so we can really see if it's fitting. And there you can see it's pretty spot on. That top line should kind of fall in line with your eyes, which I'm surprised is pretty exact. And then the middle one right around your shoulder. So I think that came out pretty good.
Cool, nice job. And then in terms of framing, we are looking at one other element, eye level. So typically you see this, this lady who's looking down at her screen. It'll kind of give that impression that you're looking down at the camera. That's not a great way to teach. But if you've got it eye level, which I have mine eye level right now, then it looks like a much more natural setting.
Yeah, and you can see this lady in the picture here is using a stack of books. There is no shame in using anything in your environment to get your computer to a level that they will see. Right now, you can't see anything I have going on behind the scenes, and that's really the ideal. So there are absolutely things that you can purchase for this, and they're perhaps a little more convenient. We do have one in the Los Angeles office if you want to check it out. But nothing wrong with the old book method. And again, if you're on a laptop, it's not probably as much of an issue, but it might be. I have a stack of books that I'm going to move here right now so you can see the difference. This is my laptop, just regular eye level. This is my laptop on a stack of books. Or is just, you know, it's a little bit of an upward angle. And so as much as possible to get that straight on view is what we're going for. So now my laptop is actually right about here and upward, and my camera is right pointing at me, like absolutely direct eye line.
Yeah, looks a lot better, a lot more natural. I also have a desk with an elevated section. I can kind of take my webcam off and show you here. It's got a little elevated section that I am putting my camera on top of. I also have an external trackpad and keyboard to help me be able to type more naturally while my laptop is up high. And I just saw that I just violated the rule of thirds there. Too much headspace. Okay, that's better.
One more thing I want to add about the eye level is that sometimes when we're teaching, we get really into our tasks. And if you have something in a window that's in the bottom screen, if you're teaching from your computer, especially if it's in the bottom corner or something like that, your eyes are going to be looking down there. Or if you're over here on an iPad doing something. So just be conscious of where your eyes are falling and know that even if you're not a presence in the class, where your eye gaze goes matters to the students, whether you're watching them or not. And it helps to stay engaged. And so, especially if you're commenting on student work, you don't want to get into this sort of thing where you're looking really close and you're really excited about it and you get closer and closer. And next thing you know, you're up on the camera just typing away. Just always keep your self view on so you can see yourself, because we just get into what we're doing and not always aware of how we're appearing, and how we appear matters so much because that's all we have for the students when we're doing video conference teaching.
Very cool. So now we are going to start talking about lighting. And for lighting, we actually have a guest that we will be bringing in, but we'll talk about a couple of things first. The three basic categories to talk about with lighting are direction, temperature, and diffusion. When we're talking about light direction, we're basically talking about where is the light. Is it in front of you, on top of you, to the side of you, to the back of you? You can see the differences between these with the pictures that Jackie took here. And we actually have our guest here, Jimmy. Jimmy, why don't you say hi to everyone, Jimmy?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jimmy.
And Jimmy is a member of our video production team, so he is a lighting expert, and he'll be here to talk a little bit about all of these things. So we've got the front light, looks pretty good. The top light, that can create downward shadows. It can be good when it's natural, maybe. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yeah, if it's a wide source of light, then it can cover a lot of things. If it's a narrow light like you see in Jackie's picture, then you get weird shadows.
Yeah. It looks like an interrogation room.
Backlighting, pretty much never good. Don't do that. And side lighting, that's just going to create lighting on one side and not the other. So we'd like to ask an expert, hey, Jimmy, where should the main source of light be? If you had just one light, where would you place it?
I'd place it as close to the camera as I can. If it's a ring light, even better. But if it's just one light to the side of the camera, really close, a little bit above the face, because light looks better coming down than it does look coming up.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Certainly.
And continuing here with our presentation.
I can, in terms of the light sources too, I wanted to make a couple other comments. Can we go back to the backlighting one?
Sure.
So backlighting right now, this is daytime. And so there's all sorts of light coming in from the windows. That helps a lot. If it was just a light behind me, it gets really kind of overwhelming and can make you look like a silhouette even. Also, something to be careful of is that on a very sunny day, and I know the way the offices in LA are set up is that there are some windows facing you, big windows. The more windows you have, the more variance there is in light. And as you know, the times change throughout the year, so when we're teaching, could change. And so when there's a ton of light coming in from a natural source, that's actually something you have to deal with too. And so Seth had this issue today, actually. Tell us what you did to resolve your massive amount of light coming in the window issue.
Yeah, I had a very, very large piece, like a slice of sunlight coming in, and I had literally put a sheet outside my window. I kind of hung up a sheet, and it actually did wonders for the light. It kind of diffused it a bit. I also have this light. It's a circle light that stands in front of me. This is something that is used in Hollywood a lot. And so both of those are things that are making my lighting situation pretty good right now.
Yeah, and you can see this is a window, and that's why even though it's not directly behind me, it is backlighting me a little bit and blowing out the, I guess, the exposure a little bit and not as balanced as it could be. Also, what happens is if there's an extreme amount of light, it can then over front light you. So if there's or over backlight you. So the light's coming in, you did the right thing, the light's coming in from the front, from the sun, but you have a white wall behind you, it can light up that white wall so bright that you're still backlit. So that's something to keep in mind too. Seth, I see your room is really white. So that's something that could happen if there's a window, Mine's a little dark, so it depends on your environment. And that's why some things in the background can help too. That way it helps with the reflection of the light, the natural light especially.
Great, and you're talking a little bit about like multi-directional light there. Adding light from many sources is the best way to appear multi-dimensional. Can you talk about that a little bit, Jimmy?
Certainly. In fact, that's the preferred way to light somebody, is to have at least 3 lights. So you have your main light in front, secondary light coming from the side, and then a third light either on top or in back, but not in the frame or anything, not the backlight you're talking about, but on top, so that it adds a little bit of the edge of your head or edge of your shoulders. You can see the depth of the person with that one.
Cool. And for people who are setting up a home office, what's something that they can do at home to enhance the quality of their lighting? Let's assume they're not going out and buying any of these like Hollywood tricks. What's something that they can do?
Definitely. We often have lights around. You can add an extra desk lamp, maybe bring one from your bedroom or somewhere if you need a second light. If you have a good first light, maybe as a window coming through, I'd place the computer right in front of the window so that the light's coming at you. And then put the second light off to the side. And if the second light is too harsh, if it's too hard of a light, then you need to diffuse it like you did with your sheet over the window. You could do that with a t-shirt or something if it's a really bright light. If it's a LED light though, and if it's kind of a mediumly bright light, then I recommend using plastic bags. You can get like a plastic grocery bag, and if the light's really bright on you, let's say it's a desk lamp, as long as you're not putting this directly on the bulb, you don't want the bag to melt. If you put it over something like this, it'll diffuse the light on you so that you can choose how much you get.
Ooh.
Pretty cool. I've heard that sending your iPhone your flashlight through a water bottle can also be a way to diffuse a little bit of light and get a good situation.
Indeed, those cell phone lights are so bright. If you put it through a water bottle or something, that'll break it up. It'll look nicer on your face.
Very cool.
I would say water bottle, not a cup of water. This is a cup of water, but I'm going to demonstrate just so you can see what it looks like a little bit. It's kind of dark in here. But you can see in the top, the light is coming through. If it was darker in here, you would see it really kind of scatters the light. Whereas right now, that's all I've got. That doesn't look good. Put it through here. Now it's a really soft light. It has a shimmer effect.
Very
If
cool.
bottle, it just kind of helps scatter the light a little bit.
If you've got some professional lighting, or if you want to create a more professional lighting situation, there are lots of things you can get. Jimmy, you've got one there. I think you said that costs like $70.
Yeah, this hard one costs about $70, though you can get a soft box light for less than $50.
Wow. So what would people search on Amazon to find something like that?
I would say soft box light like this.
Ooh, it's so big. Are there smaller versions of these soft boxes?
Definitely smaller version. You can get like a 2 foot by 2 foot one, less than $50 if you just get one. Or you can get a package of 3 for about $70 or $100. They're not much.
That's great.
Why is that the best one though?
Oh, because that comes with the diffusion already. In fact, I have different layers of diffusion here. I can choose this front diffuser, or I also have other types of sheets that I can put inside of it to diffuse it more or less depending on how bright I need it.
Wow.
And so if you were going to buy just one light, would that be the one that you would buy?
Yeah, one box light.
Cool.
Or ring light if it has a diffuser over it, something like that.
We're going to talk a little bit about temperature. I have to admit I'm out of my comfort area here. How is this relevant to teaching in the classroom from home?
Well, the way this is going to be relevant, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but is that Zoom already has a setup in its camera that it chooses how bright it's going to be. So you want to make sure that everything is the same temperature overall. If you have one light that's like a candle light temperature, and then the window's open and it's a day white, then they're going to just look strange on your face as if you have colored lights on you. So you want to, if you can, make everything daylight. If you have any windows, I'd recommend getting all daylight light bulbs. Anywhere from 5,000 to even 8,000 K is going to be okay for a window, so that you don't get mismatched stuff.
And what if you're teaching at night?
Then as long as everything is the same temperature, it's all right. If you had all really low temperature orangish type of lights, but those are the only lights going on, it'd still be okay. It won't look too weird.
Got it.
The camera in Zoom is already going to adjust for those kinds of things a bit.
Cool. And do you have any advice for darker or lighter skin tones? Because I know that the skin tone affects the temperature of the light a lot.
Yeah, more so than just do this for dark or do this for light. It's more about what does this subject that you're filming, in this case ourselves, look like compared to the background. So if the background's really bright and you're very dark, it's not going to work. Opposite also isn't going to work. So like Jackie was saying before, if you have a white background like you do, Seth, if you have a white background and it's too bright, then it'll look too weird, even if you're white skinned. So what you want to do is find an even balance between the background and the subject. So the subject is generally a little bit brighter, but not as dark as the background. And then Zoom is going to adjust for the brightness overall by itself.
Got it. And how about diffusion? What do they need to know here?
That's kind of what we talked about. You just don't want too hard of a light. It makes really hard shadows on your face. And if you diffuse it with a paper bag or a towel or a water bottle, then it'll just spread across your face better and you'll look more natural.
Oh, I can illustrate this real quick. So one of my little hacks that I have here at the house, because you need a light really close to your face, pointing directly at you. And so this is just a common desk lamp. You could probably pick one of these up for $10, $15. And I had it sitting directly behind my computer, kind of peeking over right above my camera. But I didn't have the light just directly on me. I'm going to exaggerate it by having it really in my face. So that's pretty harsh, and it's harsh on your eyes to look at. And, you know, we're teaching and trying to focus, so you don't want that. This is just a scarf, one of my favorite scarves. I threw it over the light like a little robe. And now the robe has the light has a much softer look, and it just makes you look a lot better too. It kind of makes that more natural, glowing sort of look instead of interrogation room. We don't want interrogation room.
Very cool. Thank you. And I think that's it for Jimmy. Thank you so much for coming in today and for sharing your expertise.
It was a pleasure being with you.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And so at this point, we're going to ask our people to, our learners here, to turn your camera on again. How would you describe your current lighting? Now, Jackie's done a lot of describing of her lighting, but for you at home, you would pause this in your own spreadsheet. You would write your ideas here of how you would describe your own current lighting. And then we also have the question, how can you improve your lighting situation without buying anything new, right?
All right,
So,
I'm going to do this just orally because there are some notes that I want to make about the lighting in my room because it's not perfect right now.
okay, so going back here, you know, turn on your camera again. How would you describe your current lighting? Jackie? Lighting. Jackie, how would you describe it?
How would I describe my current lighting? Well, as you can see, this light behind me, the light from the window is kind of throwing things off right now. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually a little side lit. And that's because there's another giant window right next to me. There's also a window right in front of me, but it's not bringing in as much light because there's a big screen in front of it. And so despite the fact that I have this big light, though it's diffused, this little light right in front of me in my face, I'm still getting a little side lit because of this window. Daylight always trumps any kind of light that you're trying to bring in. So that's why Jimmy said to just go with daylight if you're teaching in anything remotely daylight. But I do have just a little light here that I use as a solution when I need to. This is actually just a solar powered light. You can also charge it with a USB. It's inflatable, it's for camping. But these kinds of things are really convenient. So push a little button, turn it on, I'm going to put it on its brightest setting, and then I'm going to sit it kind of next to me, and voila. You can see this side of my face is now a lot better lit, and I'm kind of more even. And that's really what the look that you want to go for, is a very even light. And so you might have to adjust your lighting based on the time of day. And again, what your background is, so that you look the very best that you can.
So you would describe your lighting then as sort of uneven. It did look diffused because you had the blinds in front of the natural light. The direction was uneven though, and so therefore you took another diffused light, you added it on the other side to make it more even.
Yeah, and ideally what I would also do is put a darker curtain on that window. It's just too distracting. It makes everything uneven in the background because you could kind of imagine if that was covered, that looks better. It makes the background and not something that you're looking at as the brightest thing in the room. I should be the brightest thing in the room. Shine.
Cool. So people at home would drop their screenshots of their improved lighting situation and also come up with ideas about how they can improve their lighting without buying anything new. So now let's talk quickly about background. So as you can see, my background's pretty plain right now. Jackie's might be a little too busy. What we're looking for is clean, engaging, interactive. Mine is definitely clean. I can be interactive with my background because I've got a corkboard back here that I can put things on and off of. I was talking about printing out student work and putting it up there. I also have some screens that I could utilize if I wanted to move those out and kind of have like a weatherman effect or a TV news anchor who can point to things on a screen. And right now it's not super engaging, which is something that I would want to improve on. So in terms of clean, we're talking about no visible clutter. Doors, drawers, cabinets, etc. are closed. Items that appear in frame are intentional. And one thing I did is there's a bunch of papers on this desk that I'm sitting in front of. So
that's a very good hack.
that is a nice little hack, right? I just moved everything that I didn't want, that I couldn't move off the desk. I moved it behind me so you couldn't see it. And Jackie, I feel like you did something similar there in your room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a bedroom. You can probably tell this is a bed behind me, but instead of having like the flowery comforter that's on it, I at least put a clear, clean, one colored blanket on top of it. I teach kindergarten a lot, and I like stuffed animals, so that's why I use stuffed animals as my background. Yeah, I think it is perhaps a little bit too busy, but in terms of being interactive, I like to stand when I'm teaching. I like to move around, so I can get up and like come over here and grab this little rabbit, and he can come into my lesson and he can be a part of it and we can be friends.
Yeah, maybe not applicable for higher ed, or maybe super applicable for higher ed, depending on who you are, who your students are, and what you're teaching.
But I think one of the biggest things I feel like I'm missing, oh sorry, you'll get to this in interactive, but is a whiteboard.
Yeah. So in terms of engaging, color, if you can, something better than what I have, engaging materials. In terms of interactive, you were talking about a whiteboard. I've got a corkboard back here, props and costumes. I teach younger kids, so oftentimes I'll come with like I was teaching about superheroes the other day. I came with a cape and a little mask. Even in higher ed, when you bring a certain amount of enthusiasm to your presentation, that definitely goes a long way when you're teaching over video conferencing, because there's a certain social pressure when you're in the room with someone to like at least do them the honor of paying them attention to them. When they're on screen, that social pressure kind of goes away a little bit, and so we have to work a little bit harder to make sure that what we're putting in front of them is something that is visually stimulating, engaging. That's why we've been talking about all the things we've been talking about today. And we have another PD where we'll talk about the performance that is necessary in order to make a good educational experience over VC. But there are little things you can do to the visual field to make it more interactive.
Yeah, and to the interactive part too, one of the very cool things that we started very recently in our Los Angeles office was kind of similar to what Seth could pull off behind him, is having a screen behind you. Similar to the idea of what I was saying about having a whiteboard, except even cooler, more 21st century, and showing how to use your resources. And it's really cool because it adds dimension. With the lighting, that's part of what we were talking about. With this really intense front lighting, you can be a little one-dimensional. Having multiple sources helps, but also making your background multi-dimensional. And right now, I have a little bit of help with that. Yeah, I have depth because of having something pretty close to me. But all of this stuff helps bring the room to life. Remember, this is a classroom now, not a bedroom, not a home office, not an office in a building. It's a classroom. So how do you make this as classroomy as possible? And don't be afraid to get up out of your chair. I think that's one of the best things that we can do when teaching online, and have things that you can interact with. I also wanted to show a little bit about my setup right now, because right now we talked about things being intentional. They're big, these are actually closet doors. That's not really ideal for a background. What I would do is hang a curtain if I could, as long as it looks okay. If it looks janky, don't do it. But I want to just move some things in my background real quick to show you how I can make my background look better than what it is now. Just a couple quick things. So
Okay.
I will be over here. As you can see, there's a big plant in the corner. It goes almost to the ceiling. Impressive plant. But because it's so close to the wall, we're not getting the full benefit from it. It's kind of just blending in with the background. So if all I do is simply move this plant closer, now all of a sudden, it adds depth. There's something else besides me and a wall behind me. And it helps cover up these closet doors. Ooh, this one's not completely closed, so we'll close that better. And it helps cover up those closet doors. I have a couple other little things set up here where I can just throw some little decorations. These are not what I would choose per se, but we have a little statue we can put here, adding some more depth. It's at a different depth, and I'm going to put one even closer. Who doesn't need a cat statue in their background? But adding a little dimension to it. This one's even closer. Oh, we'll move this guy back a little. Little home interiors here. And then I'm going to add, this is again not ideal. Let's pretend that this is a whiteboard, but I could put this back here and it kind of rounds things out. Again, brings my background closer and creates more dimension by not having everything pushed all the way back to the wall. Now it looks like a fuller room. Yes, fine, it's a little too much. It's busy. With those changes, I might get rid of my stuffed animals, maybe get rid of the sheet, but it's not the ideal setup, but it's a start, and it's the ideas behind it that you would move some things closer and some further away so that you have dimension to your room.
And for the record, I had a plant that was sitting kind of right here. It died, so I'm working on that. We're going to get a new one. But yeah, a plant can be a nice thing to put into the visual field. If you would like a micro-credential for participating in this PD, what you would do is just make your copy of the slideshow, fill in all the answers, and then email it to info@banyangloballearning.com. And we will grade it. And as long as you reach the grade, we'll give you the micro-credential. If you do not, we will tell you what to fix so that you can resubmit it for the micro-credential. And last thing is we wanted to share thank Cindy Burgess for her great photos that we shared in this presentation. So thank you so much for participating and for coming today. We hope that you guys got a lot out of it. And this is just one of the many PDs that we have for how to teach effectively over video conferencing and online. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.